Welcome back to Ferocious Education. This is Zed. Today I'm going to be giving an update on BNGO, BNGO for Bionano Genomics. Since my previous video has done so well, I've decided to give this one another update. Make sure to drop a link to this video to help this channel grow, subscribe, and notifications on, and let's jump right into this one. So I'm going to go quickly through due diligence update and then technical analysis. Now, if you would like to watch my previous video, you'll find it in the description below, and I highly recommend you watch it after this one. So some of the updates that have recently occurred for BNGO, of course, is some of the recent news that we ended up getting regarding mainly its effectiveness compared to the traditional structure for genetics testing. So for instance, this one here, publication reveals in side-by-side comparison that method using PASBO sequencing detects only 72% of the large structural variants detected by optical genome mapping with Saphyr. And so with Saphyr able to go even further on, it detects across 32 different human genomes, and the accuracy of it is a lot better. And so we got that. We already discussed this in the last video. Now comes to the latest updates. Now, there is a massive drop today that was caused somewhat around 35%. You know, you would think usually it would probably be some kind of negative news, but that is not the case at this time. The next event happening is on January 11th to 15th, so we can expect for it to perhaps pick up around that area. And then the next news that we actually have is somewhat positive. January 4th, 2020 at 8 a.m. yesterday, Bionano Genomics published a study on autism risk gene after detailed analysis of the genome of Professor Temple Grandin, who has brought awareness to autism spectrum disorder through her activism. Eric Holman, PhD and the CEO of Bionano Genomics, commented, "This publication shows the importance of genetic testing for ASD and neurodevelopment disorder. ASD is a typical diagnosed based on a child's behavior, and only 3% of children with ASD diagnosed get clinical genetic testing, which is recommended by a number of professional medical organizations, including the American College of Medical Genetics and Genomics and the American Academy of Pediatrics. Widespread adoption of genetic testing is important to patients and family because it creates a better understanding of ASD, but more importantly, informs families and patients about immediate health risks associated with ASD and could personalize treatment options and provide potential life-saving information." Once again, the Saphyr, the product, we have another use for them that honestly I did not even think about before ASD regarding to autism spectrum testing, which by the numbers of it, only 3% of the people get actually tested. If the children gets tested for verifying that for ASD rather than just a behavioral confirmation, then that is a really, really bullish sign for the long term. Now, some of the things we want to look at is some of the recent updates. Now, institutional buyers seems to be at a sit still. Insider buyers is exactly sit still from last time. There is one of the PRs on January 4th on SEC filings. It relates to Bionano Genomics. The company obtained a waiver from Innovatus Life Science Lending of its previously disclosed non-compliance as of September 30th. In my perspective, that is still fine. It's somewhat of a good news. It's a waiver for non-compliance, and you know they got the compliance waiver. So I don't see anything negative in that sense. Now I also did even see one of the latest PRs or news on Yahoo that actually featured BNGO here, and it doesn't really also show you much of what happened here on BNGO. So all it does for BNGO is just basically mentions that it's basically rounded up with top developments in biotech, and it had a drop. So that's all. So now we have to go back to technical analysis and discuss the psychology of traders. If you haven't done so, please make sure to drop a subscribe onto this channel, drop a like, because it helps my channel grow. And if you haven't joined the Discord, please consider doing so right now. Now, on the 1 week perspective, what we get to see here is a really nice push on the 1 week perspective. The ADX still shows that this might have another leg around 45 to 50. That's where you start seeing reversals. We're not above 50 yet. 1% R, what we're seeing here is somewhat off a little bit around the neutral level. Not highly overbought, not highly oversold. Momentum is still really bullish, and moving averages are extremely bullish. We need to look a little bit onto a 1 day perspective to get a better understanding. Now, on a 1 day perspective, The ADX shows in that there is high risk here of a massive pullback happening above 50. That's where reversals are likely. William percent R comes in closing down. This is a critical level, and it has a high chance of bouncing up, because you can get to see it is a couple of there is a couple level of supports for the William percent R themselves. MACD hasn't gone negative yet, but it's a little bit stabilizing, and that's a little bit worrisome level. And momentum is retracting here. Moving averages are all extremely bullish, all the way down to 151. Now, one thing to count on this is how many days is it at to reach compliance. It needs 10 business days above $1 to reach compliance. So far, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we are halfway through the compliance level in that sense, above $1. Now, on a 2-hour perspective, things look a little bit worse. So the moving average band is still bullish. It escapes the trading action zone where positive reversals are likely. At 426, if it does dip below there, a reversal is a little bit unlikely. ADX was somewhere around 80, which is a lot higher than you would expect it to go to, and that kind of gives you that a pullback or a drop back or a correction is imminent. Now, William percent R is highly oversold, and the MACD has gone quite negative. That shows you basically you might actually get a little bit further pullback on a 2-hour perspective. Now, on the moving averages, it's not really worth going on because it's way below and it's disconnected from reality at that point. Volumes today, there was a lot less volume than usual, and that's usually a little bit of a worrisome sign. Now, stochastic fast and stochastic slow are both showing that there is a potential for another bounce here, not to give up on that sense. It shows a low risk of a drop compared to a bounce. Now, comes in towards the Fibonacci retracements. Significant support sits at 458, 375, 293, and 191. Significant resistances sit at 575 and 724. Now, the next thing we want to look at is significant supports and resistance level on a 1-hour perspective in the last few days. Now, what this looks like is heads and shoulder, and that looks very much of a dangerous sign for it to drop further. And quickly, what we get to see is a significant support at the 465, followed by the 451. Below there, we're looking at 422, and below there, we're looking down to 348. Below there, we're looking down to $3, and then 270. And then 234, and then 183, and then down to 162, and then the next one would be 113, 102, and then all the way down to 80 cents. Significant resistances. A strong one at the 490 level, and then following that is the 540 level, and then you have the 563 level, and then you have the 584 level, the 601, and then the 659. So now comes to the question to Ed, what do you think is going to happen next? Now, I did talk about it, I believe, around this day here level, around 29th, and I did say that I do expect for it to see another massive push on, and it went from 144 to somewhere around 724. So now the question is, do I think this will extend even further, and are we going to see a bounce? Well, a bounce is not out of the question. It is possible, but with massive runs like this one here, with the valuation being a little bit discontinued, or sorry, a little bit unpaired to reality of the current valuation. Remember, we're working on intrinsic value. We know its potential. We're very bullish on the long term on it, but the question is, should I realize the profits that I have currently and then buy at a lower average? And that is highly possible. I definitely think in the next 2 years, after 10 years or so, yeah, we definitely might see a bit of a nice run there. Probably the shares will no longer be in the single digits, probably be above $10. But in the very short term, do I think there's a pullback coming? Sooner or later, I do think it will see a pullback, probably accumulate at that level somewhere perhaps at the $3 mark or so, and then later on we'll see a little bit of a slow growth, and that is not a bad thing. Slow growth is what we're looking for. We want to relax, slow, steady sailing upwards. Now, the thing that with this one here is that it ran a little bit too fast in my opinion. We get to see heads and shoulder over here, which is a very bearish sign. There's no news on it, and I do think that it is volume's a little bit slowing down, and people want to go on to the next thing to get 100% because they don't see this one going from $7 to $14 in 1 week, and they want to go to the next penny stock. They'll get them from 1 to 4 in a week or so. Now, I am bullish in the long term. Short term, consider selling and buying at a lower average. What do you think about this one? Make sure to drop a like to this video and help this channel grow. Subscribe and leave notifications on. Let us know what you think about this one down below.